Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Go.
This is Damian Lupo with Total Control Financial, and you are listening to Jeff Smith with Vroom Vroom Beer.
Sweet. That was awesome. And I was fucking with you, too. And you didn't mess it up. You zoned in. Okay, and I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to turn off the cameras, too. And I'll tell you why later. All right.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Jennings, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. It's like 75 degrees in Florida. Love it.
Nice. Man, it's like LA cold here in California. So it's like in the 60s.
That's fantastic. It's cold, man.
It's cold, right? It's cold. It's like sweater weather, you know. And I grew up in Michigan, but it doesn't matter because I've been here since 2003. So I'm now, I think it's cold when it's, 60 something,
You've acclimated.
I have acclimated. That's right. So let's talk a little bit about what Travis Jennings has going on at mydebtreductionblueprint.com. What's cooking?
What's cooking? I don't know. Everything.
It is a big question, isn't it?
That is a big one, man. I guess rather than expand on it too much, I'll just kind of give you a little bit about it, man. Sure. The financial services industry, by and large, has ignored the vast majority of society, and I'm trying to do something about it. So.
Wow. Well, yeah, and I think probably step one is, stop spending so much money, something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I would take it one step further. Okay. I would say that, knowledge is power. Everyone says it. It's more cliche than anything else, but that good thing that we've got called the internet, knowledge is more accessible than ever. And I think that it's so important that we don't fall victim to just letting things be the way that they are.
Amen. All right. So we got a little brief overview of what you got going on for your business, but now this is Vroom Vroom Veer. So we have to tell stories. So once upon a time, there was a little boy in high school named Travis. And one day, you get to fill in the blank. What happened to you? What's your big high school story?
My big high school story. Let's see. I found women, and my parents,
as we do,
as men typically do.
Yes.
I found women, and without proper knowledge, I was doing things that high school kids probably do, a little less protected than most high school kids hopefully do, and had my oldest son when I was 17. I was holding him at graduation, so that what I would say would be a very large vroom and a veer.
Wow, holy cow! So you had a kid in high school.
Yeah, that was a kid having a kid, man. I can't possibly put it into words how quickly you grow up when that's dropped on your lap.
It's like childhood over. Here's this big R.
Yeah.
What's your oldest son's name?
His name's Julian. He's fantastic. He's now as tall as I am. He's 6'2", and
holy cow.
He's an amazing guy. But yeah, I'm early in my 30s, and it is odd having him basically a young man.
Right. But what was that like? Like, talk about like what sort of crap you had to go through because you did that, because that happened. I mean, just walk us through it.
Yeah. So very literally, I'll never forget, going into your parents' room. How do you have that conversation, right? How do you tell your folks that, you got a girl pregnant in high school? So
right.
Of course, being a young man, probably a little timid, I waited till they were in bed. The lights were off, walked in, sat on the couch, and broke the news. And that was a very interesting night that I don't think I will ever forget.
Yeah, I can imagine. That seems like a scene in a movie more than somebody's real life.
Oh, it's real, man, and it brings out feelings that that I don't think I've ever felt since. It's pretty crazy, but I mean, just not to lose too much time on it, but really try to imagine what it would be like to be a senior in high school, right? And know that you have a child coming in just a few months, and so things like sitting down with your guidance counselor, those conversations are a little bit different, right? So. I got a job at State Farm full time. They allowed me to go to school for a couple classes and then kind of take off and go be a big boy. So thankfully, I had a great job at State Farm and corporate office and did pretty good. But I had to provide, and I was really good at basketball, and I'd like to think that I could have done something there, but had to be a big boy, but I couldn't be more blessed because of it. You know, I unfortunately, fortunately and fortunately, I guess, I get to look at my peers, and I've kind of watched them. You know, when does the typical person mature? You know, is it typically after college? Do they figure it out during college? I was kind of forced in that role early, and I believe it gave me a tremendous advantage in getting the wheels turning quickly.
So, did your parents freak out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, bring the whole thing full circle. So my oldest son is now 15 years old. He'll be 16 in March.
Okay.
And you can imagine how close I keep an eye on him with his free time.
As well you should.
As well I should. So there's no driving in cars with females for trips that'll take more than 2 minutes where I can't.
You're trying to shield him from a similar fate. Is that what you're trying to say?
Protect him. It's definitely from a probability standpoint. I definitely beat the odds, and I would hate to stack that deck against him.
Sure. No. Right. Yeah. Without being overprotecty, right?
I gotta be. I mean, I'll do my best, but no, I have high hopes for him. So I would say that I'm probably a little harder on him than I should, but I do get his permission. I told him that if he wants to be a regular guy, he's welcome. But if he wants to push himself, that I can guide him. So he's great, man. I couldn't have a better kid.
That's awesome. So, okay, so you survived this somehow, right?
Somehow. Got a little apartment, had a job, realized that, State Farm wasn't going to be my thing for the rest of my life, right? I'm ambitious, even with that situation over my head. So I had to do what I had to do. So I joined the Air Force, and it took me to
the Air Force. Really?
Yeah.
I was in the Air Force 20 years.
I did not do 20 years, man. I couldn't do it.
Well, that's okay. Not everybody does 20 years.
I did a term. So I went through. My older brother was in the Army. He went to Hawaii, and so took the test, qualified for any job that I wanted to, and so it was between the Air Force and the Army. The Army said they could send me to Hawaii, give me a big bonus, but Hawaii at the time, at least, I don't know if it's still this way or not, but they were actively deploying pretty often. So I decided that I would rather. The Air Force guy, man, I don't remember his name, but my gosh, if I could send him a Christmas card, I would. He told me the best sales pitch I've ever got. He said, "Listen, I know you want to go to Hawaii. I know that sounds great, but what if I could guarantee that if you go overseas and you end up in a desert, you have air conditioning and you don't even have to carry a gun because you're that far away from the front lines?" I said, "Sign me up."
That's true.
It's true, yeah. So they put me on a satellite with working on technology and muck servers, and so they didn't think I needed weapons, and of course we had to air condition the equipment, so I was able to always have AC.
There you go. So let's get a little bit geeky. So you were enlisted, right?
Yep, enlisted.
And what was your AFSC?
I don't remember the number, but essentially what would happen is we would pull the satellite feed out of the sky into the satellite dish, and then that satellite dish would push the data through what we call a MUX server. It's just a big box with a bunch of lights. And so I was in charge of making sure that the signal turned into voice or data. And
so were you an operator or a maintenance guy?
So on deployments there would only be 2 of us, and so we had to do all of it.
Wow, my goodness. Yeah,
wasn't bad. But
and what time frame was this?
when was this? This was 2001.
Oh, okay.
2005.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to put myself. Where was I? Interesting. Wow. And where did you end up going?
So I went to San Antonio for tech training, and then I went to tech school at Biloxi, Mississippi, before Hurricane Katrina kind of messed that city up.
Right.
And I was actually in the barracks when we caught Saddam, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Ah, nice.
Yeah, the place was jumping.
Did you ever end up deploying? You did.
No, it was pretty. No, so I made a tactical decision to kind of transfer a couple years into it over to the Air National Guard. To a reserve capacity, and so all my deployments were with hurricanes. So in Florida, we get lots of hurricanes.
Right.
And so it would be 2 to 4 of us and an entire battalion of Marines. So they would send us out, and all of the all of the logic in military, they decided that it would be best if they put us ahead of the hurricane. So they would deploy us. They'd put us in Humvees and what do you call those, deuce and a halves?
Yeah.
And the hurricane would fly over our heads, and then we would just pop up and set up shop, opposed to just following the hurricane in the trucks.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So we would set up satellites.
So you're there just in time to get the full brunt of the hurricane.
Yeah, literally, they'd put us in like a community college or something, and then the hurricane would fly over, and the walls would be shaking.
Wow.
And then in the morning we'd do what we got to do. But I will tell you, Air Force has its advantages. I don't know if you remember the Marine PT gear. So when they're off duty, kind of what they have to wear.
Yeah.
Being in the Air Force, it was pretty lax.
Oh, yeah, dude, I was in the Air Force 20 years. I know.
I made a good choice on that one.
Yes. I think, if you want to have it nice and you can get in, the Air Force is the way to go. Right. Absolutely. It just depends on, what sort of personality, I think, because Marines are very much, they want to be on the front lines, the Army folks, mostly they want to be out there, with boots on ground and fighting. Air Force dudes are probably more like, yeah, I'd rather be over here with using my brain.
Exactly.
Or flying a plane, right? And I didn't want to fly a plane.
No, because what else would we possibly do?
Right. Okay, so you're in the Air Force for a spell, and what did you do when you got out?
So, I guess...
Oh, you were in the Air Guard, right?
Yeah. So, while I was in, I was trying to get my schooling done with the kid and doing everything else. But so I went into the Air Force thinking that I would do the whole contractor thing when I came out, go over to CENTCOM in Tampa and, knock down $90,000 a year and be happy and everything would be great. I learned that I like technology, but not as a job, not as a full-time job.
Right. Good call.
Went into USF, which is the college in Tampa, and thought I wanted to do engineering. Quickly learned that I didn't like that. And I found my passion in economics.
Interesting.
And yeah, so while I was there, my older brother was into real estate. So he had a title company and a mortgage company and a realty company. And I was like, man, well, I'm pretty sure I could build a house. He said, well, why do you think you can build a house? I was like, because it's just babysitting people, right? He's like, I guess.
That's
I was like, look,
great.
man, I'll sell the house, I'll hire a contractor, and they'll guide us through the first couple.
Okay.
And so we started a company building custom homes, and I had a knack. So I'm still in the military. I've switched over to reserve status. I'm doing it on a part-time basis in the military, going to school, got a kid, starting a construction company.
And you're building homes. Okay.
Building homes. So I had to find like a differentiating edge. So my creativity brought me an idea. A little bit of a play on words, but it is, but it worked.
Right.
So when you think of home builders, right, when you say, hey, I'm looking at buying this house, what's the price per square foot? Well, the price per square foot is based on the conditioned space, which is obviously smaller than the total square footage.
Right.
So we put out marketing campaigns and we put out, signs and such that marketed our custom homes at $80 a square foot. Now, the price was about the same as everyone else, but we based the $80 on the total square footage. And when they came in to see us, we told them and all that stuff. Is it on the fringe of bait and switch? I guess, maybe a little bit, but I was, 19, 20 years old. What do you want? I did what I can.
Hey, at least you admit it now. You're like, oh, you mean that's not right?
All the customers were happy. Nobody was unhappy.
Right. Hey, you got them in the door.
Got them in the door. So one of my clients, very, very early, it was like number 3 or 4 house that we got under contract and we're going to build, was a financial planner. And the guy always seemed to be hanging around the office or playing golf or in his boat. And
so you're like, hey, I like this guy's life.
Man, what does this guy do? Didn't seem to have a lot of friends, but for some reason he had like 4 of them.
So this financial advisor guy seems like he has a really cool job. In other words.
Yeah, it seemed like a great life, great lifestyle.
So, did you have to go to school to be a financial advisor?
Well, I was already in school, right? So I was studying economics at USF, and I just found macro is where I got excited, and then I met him, and it all just kind of worked out. I know that you've got a lot of your literature kind of speaks to hearing your calling, hearing when those things come, and I think that one was screaming at me pretty loud.
Oh, cool! So you just kind of felt good, huh?
I felt good, man. I felt good, and it worked out. Definitely was a challenge. I don't think that he gave me the easiest route into the industry, but I'm definitely blessed because of it. He made it very challenging.
So what did you end up doing as a financial advisor to begin with?
So the first couple of years in the industry, basically, he gave me all of the really, really crappy the hard situations.
Okay.
And looking back on it, I think it's pretty neat. I think that the reason he's told me that, but the reason why he put me in that position was he wanted me to see how important it was that the financial decisions that we make for people and the recommendations, that they matter, because what he had me designing people out of were poor recommendations from other advisors.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of that, a lot of case design on a lot of case. There's a lot of people. So imagine the financial industry. We get paid a portion of the money that we move or manage. So naturally, if a client has $1 million, then say we're charging them 1%, well, we would get $10,000 a year.
Right.
If you look at a client who only has, say, $100,000, well, then we're only getting $1,000 a year.
Right.
And so the thing that kind of stuck with me early, and then it stuck with me, my latest veer, which I'm sure we'll cover a bit more later. But
sure.
But the big thing that I saw very early on was that all the good advisors seemed to go upstream. And so when I was getting into the industry and I could see that I had a knack for it, and naturally, I just wanted to keep learning, and I wanted to see, what did it take to get a bigger client the next time,
right?
And
okay.
And that drove me, and knowledge was how I separated myself and how I differentiated myself in the industry. Unfortunately, if I went in the traditional approach, if you wanted to be an advisor, you'd get a job at a bank or Edward Jones or Charles Schwab, and you'd go sit in their office,
right?
And then
right.
clients would come in and they'd sit down in front of you, and you would be told what you're allowed to offer and do that.
No,
very
we
literally.
all kind of know. Yeah. We've seen like Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Oh man, that's a very sick movie, but there's a lot of stuff they hit right on the head.
Right. It was more about the churn, right? And charging commissions based on, charging commissions.
Based on,
I don't know if that's what you got into or if your situation was different.
No, so I think I have to address that, right? Just for the sake of keeping the story clear.
Yeah.
Wolf on Wall Street was dealing in a different side of the world, right? So penny stocks. When you get into penny stocks, you're dealing in extreme amounts of risk. And back in the day, they were able to charge whatever they wanted as far as commissions go, because it was kind of like, if you wanted to buy into my company, I kind of held all the marbles, right? Like if I told you it'd be $50,000 to get 5% stake, like what would you say? I mean, you have no leverage, you have no pull. Right. And so you kind of had to deal with what you had. And so back then they could get away with that crap.
Wow.
The laws have changed quite a bit, but it's still very bad. But I just want to be crystal clear for those that aren't in the know, that have watched that movie, that industry is still bad, but it isn't quite that bad.
It's a little bit more regulated now.
A little bit, and of course, regulation brings a whole nother set of issues, but
sure.
Nonetheless.
Right.
So yeah, no, I was involved very literally. So what he was doing is he was working with old wealthy people.
Okay.
And he kind of liked to target 500,000 to $1 million. And so if we think about where are we going to find somebody that has $500,000 to $1 million, we look at our society. So we have the younger folk who don't have as many years on this earth to accumulate wealth. Furthermore, they have technology which markets to them all day long, every day. And then you have the older folk who come from a different time that saved a bit more, and they've been on this earth a little longer. So naturally, if you want to go find money, you seem to have to either go find the old wealthy people or the business people.
Right. Okay.
And he decided that he wanted to market to the older folk.
Okay.
So I was designing cases for people who were, say, about to retire or had already retired, and they had X amount of dollars, and they had an income need of whatever it was. And so it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. They had their pieces all over, and however I could reshape that to improve their life. That's essentially what I've always done my whole career, but that's where I focused the first couple of years.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds pretty traditional financial advisor. Like, you've got this big pile of money and now you don't want to work anymore. How do I make this pile of money make me some income?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I very quickly learned that there is 3 parties involved in that decision. There is the client, there is the advisor, and then there's the person that, I say person, it should be the company, the custodian. Right. Or insurance company, or whoever that money's going to be with.
Right.
And a very valuable lesson is there is only 100 pennies in that dollar. And so when you look into what is the problem in the industry, the problem in the industry is, well, if the advisor wants to get paid extra, well, that money has to come from somewhere. So do you think you're taking it out of the insurance carrier's pocket, or do you think you're taking it out of the client's pocket?
Probably the client, right?
Probably the client, right? Because the insurance company, I haven't heard of many insurance companies losing, right?
Or no, they don't like that.
They don't like that. They do a lot of stuff to prevent that from happening.
Right. Yes. Well, that was one of my key lessons somewhere along the road is the importance of focusing on keeping money instead of making money sometimes.
Absolutely. It's a very, very good one. And that's when we get to the end of this conversation, that's kind of what I'm focused on now.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. So when you talk about debt reduction and tax reduction, it's more about, those are bills that if you don't have to pay, those are dollars you get to keep.
Amen.
And I don't know of any advisors that really focus on that.
Right. Yeah. And you need to. I don't know if you know, well, obviously, but I am just getting ready to make a move out of California, probably the most taxed state, to Nevada.
Nice.
So I'm doing a tax reduction on myself.
There you go. It's a good one, man.
I know.
California's out of control. I think there are segments of your population that pay over 50%.
I know. It's so nuts. And I just started doing options for fun. And usually when I was doing ordinary stock buys, I was buy and hold and long term. So I didn't really worry about capital gains that much. It comes up, but it's no big deal, right?
Yep.
But when you do options, everything, I would say more than 80% is all short-term gains if you have gains.
Yep.
And California just heaps. They're like, oh, that's 7% ours. Oh, that's. I'm like, what? Every stinking transaction, right? No way. So I'm like, put the brakes on that until I get out of California.
Moving to Nevada so that I can trade options for fun.
Yes, correct.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you're in Florida, and Florida is one of those favorable tax states as well, right?
Absolutely, man. We get the weather of Florida. We just have to add the hurricanes and subtract the taxes.
Well, I lived in Florida in actually Lower Alabama. I was in Panama City. For about 4 years, and I had my share of hurricanes, so I know what you went through there. So okay, so moving on. So you hang out and you work with your financial advisor buddy, and you help the wealthy for a while, And then
now
we're at a new turning point.
Yeah, so he kind of threw me into the fire. He made it really challenging. I don't know if he thought I would actually kind of tough through it, but I did. I toughed through it, and then when he saw what I was becoming, he did some things that he I think he would probably regret, and kind of forced the decision on me, and I left.
Okay.
And so I left and ran out on my own, and that was a scary, scary thing.
It is. That's very scary.
Especially when you're marketing to seniors and you're a young 20-something-year-old with a baby face.
Right. And a baby of your own. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't the traditional guy, right? I don't know if you've heard this before, but the average age of the financial advisor right now is 57 years old.
No, that makes sense.
That's crazy talk to me, because I think that most people lean on their advisor thinking that they're going to be there for them, right? Like over the long haul.
Right.
No matter what your age is, if your advisor is 57 years old, like how long is he really going to be there for you? It's true. That's not a conversation coming up in their ads, though. I think that one they're leaving out.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I never really thought about it. I knew that, but when you think about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I guess if you're dealing with people in their 60s and 70s, somebody that's 57 seems young. That's the only
I think you're onto something there, because the reality is, aren't those the only people really getting service with true financial planning? There's a lot of people out running around selling policies and such to people, but actual true financial planning, that's not really handed out very often to everybody else.
Right. Okay.
So I jumped out on my own. What I had learned from life at that point was that the more that you know, the better you are, right? And I was still climbing that scale, trying to have only millionaire clients, because that is what the stereotypical goal is of an advisor, right? Because if all of your meetings are meaningful and the person has $1 million, then basically every time you sit with someone, you got commissions coming of anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 in most cases, actually.
Right. Yeah.
So I learned a whole lot of stuff, man. I guess having this conversation is kind of bringing back some stuff. So when I think of the construction, how I priced the homes, I guess my financial planning angle was a little different as well. I didn't really focus on the investments. I focused my knowledge suite around things that other people don't talk about.
Okay. And
so I got into taxes pretty heavily. In the state of Florida, man, there's imagine this. I have a client, they got $4.5 million and they needed to go to the nursing home. They were sick.
Right.
So in Florida, it cost about $75,000 a year to keep someone in a nursing home.
Wow.
It is. Here's a fun one for the radio. Where do you think the most expensive state in the country is to go into the nursing home?
It's got to be Florida, because that's where everybody goes.
No, come on.
California.
If I gave 49 guesses, you wouldn't get it right. Supply and demand. Who do you know that wants to retire, go to the nursing home in Alaska? Nobody. So guess what they charge? Whatever they want.
Wow, you're right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, supply and demand, man. That is the most expensive state in the country. So anyways, Back to that client. So the client comes to me and goes, "Hey, I got all this money with you. That's great, but I got to go to the nursing home. What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, great. No problem. I actually learned how in the state of Florida we can protect all of that money and we can have the government pick the bill up." And she said, "Well, I don't want a handout." I said, "No, it's not a handout. It's actually a part of your Social Security taxes you've been paying your entire career."
Right. Okay.
You've been paying into it. It's there. That's what it's for.
Yours.
But learning stuff like that, when you can share that story with somebody who's wealthy, it means something.
Right.
And if you talk to most traditional financial advisors, they kind of only talk about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and investments.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Not avoiding costs that you'd otherwise just pay because you're rich.
Yeah. So
good idea.
I've just been running around learning a bunch of really cool, weird stuff, man. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. So I did that. I got to the point where all my meetings were wealthy people. And I had this, I'll never forget this for my entire life. This is right up there with the story when I told my father about what I did at the age of 16.
Yeah.
So in the same week, I had 3 things happen. 3 things. So number one, when you're marketing for people, you don't get every rich person that you want, right? You get some people that don't quite have $1 million that kind of slip through the filters and they show up in your office.
Okay.
I had a lady who was like 73 years old. She had $100,000 to her name, and she needed like $45,000 a year to live on.
Okay.
Her Social Security was, no, numbers are off a little bit. Basically, the amount of money that she had was only going to survive another 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So what do you do for somebody who's no longer working, too old to re-enter the workforce, and doesn't have enough money? So the normal, and this is sad, and I'm sorry to even tell the story, but it's true, the normal response in that situation, almost 100% of the time, if you look at their investments, you say, it's looking great. If you ever need anything, give me a call, and you walk them out.
Wow.
I hadn't had to do that in a while. So I that impulse came. I talked her through the best that I could. I spent a lot of time. I coached her. I did everything that I could, but there was nothing that I could do.
Right.
So that one really was weighing on my chest. That same day, I had a client come in. They have $5 million with me. They only made 10% that year.
Only.
So the guy made $500,000 on his investments, and he had the nerve to complain.
Wow.
So
he didn't have to do anything. He made $500,000, and he was upset at you.
He was upset at me because his neighbor made 12. His neighbor made 12. Wow. I was so irritated. I mean, mind you, I'm coming off the heels of that other conversation. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And then I attended a conference just a couple of days later where they explained this concept that basically shows you how to create money out of thin air.
Oh, wow.
And
I like
and it's exclusive. You got to have $5 million or more to even enter the conversation.
Okay.
And so then I would say, Jeff, why would you have to have $5 million to be able to create money out of thin air?
Well, you're not really creating money out of thin air, right?
You are. It's pretty close to it.
Okay.
So what would the $5 million barrier have to do with anything? Would that?
Well, it would probably mean that, you want to charge me some sort of percentage on that $5 million.
What if it was just to keep everybody else out?
Oh, right. Okay. Understood.
That was it, man. I saw those 3 things happen in the same week, and I was like, that's it. I'm changing my life. I'm not doing this crap anymore. I'm not going to do it. Just not.
Wow.
So I kind of went into hibernation for a little bit of time. I have 2 rooms at my office and 2 rooms at my house that are nothing but whiteboards. I'm a bit of a mad scientist. So I started pouring my brain. I am 100% sincere on that. 8 foot tall in every wall of the room.
So that's how you think.
That's how I think. I have to get it out and see it and visualize it and kind of manipulate it from there. So my goal was, how can I still maintain my quality of life? Because I do like the comfort that money brings.
Obviously.
But how do I make more of an impact on the world? And what I came up with was, people that have no financial sense, it's not like it's once or twice. It's their entire life.
Right.
And so what I saw was that the people that had better financial sense were able to amass wealth and have a good life. And the people that didn't kind of struggled. And so I wanted to come up with a way to kind of reach back into time and help these people younger in life so that when they reach retirement, they can have $1 million and they can interview whichever advisor they want to interview. Right.
Good idea.
Right?
Yeah.
So then came the challenge of, well, how on earth do I communicate to these people? Because I don't, I mean, granted, I'm still very young and I'm the same age as most of them, but I don't understand how they think. Because I had a kid at 17 and I walked this really weird road.
No, right. You're having a hard to relate kind of situation.
Absolutely. And so what I came up with was, I took the financial planning strategies that I'd learned. I took some common sense practicality. So I took my background in technology with the Air Force, and what I thought was, the 401k Did you know that was created in 1980?
No.
So it was created in 1980, and today it's got over $24 trillion in 401k accounts.
Wow.
Now, I can't obviously jump on a podcast and start giving financial advice, but I just want to have an open dialogue.
Sure.
So if they were able to go from 0 to $24 trillion in 36 years, it's got to be pretty good. There's something about it that's great. So when I analyze it from my financial planning brain, the investment selection inside of it are limited.
Right.
The costs are a little higher than what I would like to see.
Yes.
If they need their money before they reach 59 and a half, they get taxed and penalized.
Right.
So there's next to no liquidity. And let me ask you, Jeff, do you think taxes are going to go up or down by the time you retire?
I think they're probably going to go up, Travis.
I think I've heard that 100% of the time.
It seems that they have every year.
Yeah, I mean, let's just use our common sense and go, okay, so if we believe that to be true, why would we take the tax exemption today so that we can pay taxes in the future?
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. But we still have the reality that it grew, this $24 billion, it grew at a rate faster than anything ever. I've never seen anything do that before. It has the top investment platform in the history of mankind. I can't imagine something had been better than that. So what is it about the 401k that's so great? What I came up with was that it required little to no thought and maintenance. It's all automated. You show up to work, they say, this is what we're doing, you make the decision, and that's it. You don't touch it, you don't see it.
Right. You just
so I
basically
realized
say
that
yes. Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
You make your choice, you move on.
Right.
And so what I realized is that I had to create a system that was automated. It took the burden of thinking and maintenance off of them. And that's what I did, man. I've created a couple different companies based around those principles. Took a decade worth of knowledge, infused it with some automation and technology, and we redirected our target audience. Instead of trying to chase current wealthy people and show off with dog and pony shows and fancy dinners and expensive marketing and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what if I just sent those dollars to marketing to everyone else? And if I could create my future client, that would be a win-win, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So how do you do that?
Sounds awesome, right?
Yeah,
it
how
sounds
do you do that?
Sweet. You're like, dang, that's great. That's awesome. Man, I tell you what, this has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
I can imagine, yeah, because you've got some serious hurdles to overcome there. So basically, you're taking on the challenge of educating everyone.
But not just educating, right? Because the internet can educate. Yeah. We have to not only educate, but we have to do it in a way that they don't go, gross. I don't want to do this.
Right.
Have you seen the new Citibank commercials?
No.
Oh my heaven, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. So they've got this series of marketing commercials that they're doing right now, and I encourage everybody to go to their website and just take a look. They're so awesome. So, for example, video opens, there's an old lady sitting there. Not an old lady, she's like 40 years old or something. Then it goes, all right, you have two choices. You can tell your child that you've saved nothing for college, or you could stand up on this table and dance. Which one would you like to do? And then it breaks away, and it comes back. The old lady's dancing on the table.
40's not old, damn it.
No, I'm sorry. They've got a couple different ones, and I was still sorting out in my head which one I wanted to talk about.
But
they're banging on the fact that nobody wants to talk about their finances.
Right. No,
and then you take that one step further, and I had a decade of experience, and that's all fine and dandy, but it's all with older people, seniors, 60, 70, 80, 90.
Right.
Old people. And so if that were the case, what I didn't realize is that those people were familiar with the conversation because they'd been retired. And everybody hits you up once you retire because they assume you have money.
Right. Well, that's true.
So how do you have that conversation with someone who's never had that conversation?
Right. That's true. That
has been hard.
That's a tough pill that you're trying to sell there, dude.
Oh, I know. And then you're talking about, commissions used to be $10,000 to $100,000. Now we're talking like a couple $100 to $1,000.
So you need more volume, basically.
Oh yeah, no, I can't do it unless it's volume based. And because the technology's there, then I don't have to spend as much time on every individual case.
Right.
So I can see and help more people in the same amount of time. But obviously, it's still there's no way that you can compensate for that amount of money. So I'm definitely taking a huge pay cut in the process, and have taken a huge pay cut. But I think the world needs it.
You feel better though about
what
I feel you're doing, right?
Oh, for sure. No, it's awesome.
And the thing is, this is something that we all need to do. Is get honest and real about what, reducing debt, figuring out how to minimize our tax burden, and then figuring out how to keep money on a regular basis and not just live paycheck to paycheck. That's a tall order, because, you've got TV and the internet working against you 24/7.
24/7, man. Marketing to us on our phones.
Yeah.
On our everything.
Everything. So if somebody shows up at, wait a minute, let me make sure I get it right, mydebtreductionblueprint.com, what do they see?
Well, they see a website that is trying to tell them to just take a deep breath, give us 15 minutes, and let me actually show you what we can do. What that system is, right? And it's a system. Okay. And so what the system is designed to do is it takes your debts, right? We want to create wealth while eliminating debts.
Right.
There's people out there that, let's put it all out on the table, right? There's people out there that teach personal finance, but when they teach personal finance, they made a conscious business decision to sell self-help books, to sell the literature, to sell the packets. Because if they do it that way, they get paid up front. And whether you follow through or don't, they're okay. Their business is just
they've already been paid.
Fine.
Yeah, right.
Right. So what I did is I created a system, and this will probably come bite me in the butt one day, but thankfully I'm pretty good with money. I think I'll be all right. I literally put the success of that company and those systems and all the money that I've put into it, I rested it on the fact that I believe that this system will carry people all the way where I'm telling them it'll take them to. So the process, how it works is you put in your income, your assets, and your debts. We don't need account numbers. We don't need social security numbers. We don't need anything personal like that.
Right.
We just need to understand
your numbers, right.
Profile. Right. Just give us your profile. That profile hits our software. Software generates a report, and then the client jumps on a webinar. We share with them the report. We show them what happens if they use the exact same dollars that they're currently using in a different way. So somebody has a student loan, a credit card, a house, and a car loan. Of those debts, Jeff, which one do people typically pay a little extra to try to pay?
So the answer to that would be, most folks would say credit cards. Am I right?
Yeah. Everybody sees that high interest rate and they're like, well, I'd like to get that knocked out, so I'll contribute a little extra.
Yeah, good idea. Or just pay it all off, one or the other.
Yeah, if you could afford it, man. I think the reality, though, and what I've learned very painfully is that most people, I had really been disconnected in dealing with the clientele that I was dealing with and making what I was making. I really lost touch of kind of what life really is for most of America.
Right.
So what most people typically do is they'll just pay a couple extra $100 on their account if they can afford it, because that's typically all the extra money that they have.
Right.
What they don't realize is just using that couple extra $100 in a different way produces extremely better results.
Okay.
It also is how we're able to kind of put this automation process together.
All right.
Let's just say that a family was overpaying on their one credit card by $250.
Okay.
Well, if you were able to just store that money off to the side, put it into a side account or an investment account for extra benefits, well, then you're able to save up enough money to pay off that credit card. And if an emergency pops up in the meantime, what you're doing is you're conditioning yourself that you save first, and when it's time to borrow, you borrow from yourself.
Right.
So essentially, that's what we teach. Now, I know Dave Ramsey would say that that's not the way he would suggest that he does. He thinks you should pile all the money directly into the debts. But right. I'm of the opinion that there's some practicality that we have to tolerate, right? Because I'm not selling a book. I need them to actually go through with it and actually become wealthy and actually get out of the problems that they're in.
Right.
Because I don't make any money unless they actually stick with us.
Right. So you're teaching through doing almost.
Oh, absolutely teaching through doing. In most cases, if people have like credit card debts, we're able to get the first couple debts knocked out in the first 6 months or so.
Oh, that's great.
And just think through what that does for somebody.
That's huge.
Knocking out a credit card And then that payment that they used to make to that credit card, most people,
now, right?
Yeah, that's right. Add that to the automation. Add that to your savings. You're already accustomed to paying it.
Right.
Pay yourself.
Pay yourself instead of the bank, baby.
That's right, man.
That's a really good idea.
So it's not rocket science, and it's not something that I created like out of thin air. I just took the same stuff I had been using for the wealthy clients, and I just said, let's redesign this and let's make it help work for the rest of America.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
I love this plan.
You got to see the results, man. I actually I grew up in Miami. I moved to Tampa with the Air Force.
Right.
And when Julian, my oldest, when he hit 7th grade, there were some kids smoking weed at the bus stop. So I said, all right, it's time to move.
But, don't come to California if you don't want to see people smoking weed at the bus stop.
I just think 7th grade's a little early.
It's totally too early. You're right.
Oh, man. So I actually moved out on a farm. And so I have a legitimate farm. I have 70 chickens. I have 11 cows. I have a pig.
That's
I got
great.
3 chest freezers full of animals, and I got a garden and all that cool stuff. But the point of me telling you this is, I've been able to help a lot of really cool people. I have a guy that helps out around the farm. I don't think you would think that I would be a farmer, right? With that background.
Right.
The chicken kind of shows up in the fridge.
But it was your chicken. Yeah.
But it was my chicken, man.
That's great.
But I tell this story, and he's given me permission to tell this story. But he's a fantastic guy, and unfortunately, when you're helping out with somebody around the property, I can only pay you so much money, right? I mean, I'm not going to give you $90,000.
Right.
And that just wouldn't be going to make any sense.
Right.
But in that situation, whatever I'm paying him and whatever they're making as a family, it is incredibly difficult to survive on that kind of money and actually save.
Yeah.
Because the way that society has manipulated the commerce is rather than saying, hey, give me $1,000 for the new iPhone, they say, oh, man, no problem, $20 a month extra. And we'll sign you up on a, however many year contract.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're getting raked over the coals. They just, if they can consume all of your income, how do you ever save? And how do you ever retire?
Right.
And so the reason I kind of brought up my buddy that helps out on the farm is, they were overpaying on a card by $250, and it put them in a situation by saving all of the money once they were paying off their debts. So as debts were paid off, they were saving those payments.
Yeah.
When they hit retirement, they're projected to have over $600,000.
Nice.
And it's not rocket science. It's not like I'm saying it's a big complicated thing. It's very easy. Take the payments, the debts that we can actually pay off. Let's get those paid off.
Yeah.
How much money is that? Is it $1,500? Well, how much money can you save if you're saving $1,500 from now until 66 years old?
That'd be a lot of money.
A lot of money.
That'd be a lot of
People
money.
Are like
and the
skeptical.
key there is to make sure that you get the habits that keep you out of debt.
There you go.
Right?
That is the truth. How many people pay off a credit card and then they're right back in debt?
All of them.
All of them?
Maybe.
I want to strangle someone when they're like, oh, I just went through debt consolidation. I'm like, awesome. Have you got another credit card yet? And they're like, oh, yeah, I just got my first one.
Yeah.
Like, man, what are you
so
doing?
I don't know about you, but like my wife and I, we get excited to use our credit card because we get points. Right? And we pay it up, we pay off the balance every month, but we really like those points.
For sure. The points are great if you're disciplined enough to pay it off.
Right. Exactly. So you want to work the system to your advantage.
Absolutely. This isn't anything that people can't do on their own. It's just who's running around teaching this stuff. It's not the banker. Banker talks about bank accounts. The investment guy talks about investment accounts.
Right. And especially with your system, it sounds like most of it's for free.
Oh, it's all for free. Literally. I mean, think about it. If we're going to set you up an account, right, you have to have a couple things. So you have to have a written plan.
Right.
Because how do you do anything without a written plan? You can't build a house without a written plan. You can't do much of anything. You got to also have a bank. You have to have a place that's yours, your money, that you go to when you need to get something, your bank. Mm-hmm. And the third thing that I believe that you need to have is it needs to be automated because the human error is real.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Human emotion, we make some dumb decisions.
Oh, yeah.
And we gotta prevent around that. So people say, Travis, well, what's in it for you then if you're giving all of this stuff away? Well, just think logically for a second. You could use your bank and make it a savings account, right? And in that situation, if you choose to use a savings account, awesome, great, do it. That's awesome.
Right.
I hope you have the strength to automate it and do it yourself.
Right.
But you're not going to get the automation. Now, there are investment accounts that operate like a 401k. They automate the whole thing for you. Now, if you choose one of those accounts, when we set up the account, they pay me a referral fee. That doesn't come out of your money.
Right.
So essentially, I'm getting paid. It just isn't coming out of your pocket.
Oh, so you're getting paid from the bank.
Yeah, whichever investment vehicle that we set up, whichever one is appropriate for your situation. Some people use life insurance. Some people use Vanguard. Some people use whatever.
Right. Okay.
Just depends on your situation.
Oh, nice.
But people have a really hard time wrapping their head around that because everyone else in this industry is like trying to score as many dollars as possible.
Right.
I literally have a guy that lives right around the corner from the office. He's been into the office three times over the last 2 weeks. He's using a savings account. He wants to do it his own. And I'm like, all right, no problem. But he wants to pay me. I'm like, dude, I don't need your money. I don't have a way to accept your money. I don't accept Visa credit cards. Like,
that's not how I do it. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'll help you. He goes, but I don't want to sign anything. I don't care. I'm not asking you to sign anything. I'll coach you through it. But why? And he keeps coming in like to check his sanity. And I'm like, brother, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, I'm willing to help if you want help. If you don't want help, it's okay.
Right. Wow.
Like, whatever, man.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, I still have my high net worth clients. I still make money. I'm still good. This is like my way to help.
What makes you feel good about you,
Exactly.
Like
and heck, I got 3 kids that are going to need clients later on in life.
There you go.
So let's build them.
There you go. Yeah. And if it works out right, I think you're going to have a whole lot of people that like you.
I would hope so.
Yeah. One would hope. I do.
One would hope.
Yeah, one would hope. So Travis Jennings of My Debt Reduction Blueprint, we are wrapping up. Is there anything else you need to talk to me about, talk to the audience about? Any parting shots?
Well, I know that you have a lot of entrepreneurs on this, right? And a lot of really, really bright minds. And so I guess if it's okay with you, I'd like to maybe plug the other systems that I created that are maybe a little bit more business owner centric.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you a fun question, Jeff. When's the last time that your accountant or CPA brought you an idea that saved you thousands of dollars in taxes?
Well, I don't have one of those, but so that would be a never.
That would be a never. And if you did, I would be willing to bet that your answer would be the same.
All right. Okay.
And it's weird. It's an odd thing because everybody believes that their accountant or their tax professional is in the business of tax reduction. Okay. But if we look at the actual steps of what happens in that industry, let's just go one by one. We get our tax forms in. We walk into the office. We put them on his desk.
Yep.
He or she takes those tax forms, put them into your 1040, hands it back, and says, send it to the government. Send it to the IRS.
I've prepared this for you.
That's it. They prepared it.
Right.
They have recorded history. Tell me where in that process, in those steps, does it fit for them to go, oh, we should do this, and this to get the tax bill down? And if they did do that, how do they even charge for that?
Right.
They don't do that. I mean, the majority of them don't do that. I'm sure there's some that do. But the way that I like to articulate it is if you were going to build a custom house, if you were going to build your dream house, you wouldn't go to the tract home builder. You'd go to the architect. You'd sit down with the architect. You would design your plan. And then you would take that plan to the builders and say, give me the best deal.
Right. That's what I would do.
So what the accounting industry needs really bad, and what I've spent a lot of money to try to solve, is they need a solution where somebody can bring their tax situation, no obligation, no cost, sit down, allow a professional to look at your tax return and tell you how much taxes you're paying that you shouldn't. And then
right.
I think that should exist, right?
Right. Oh, for sure.
So we've built that. It sounds like the same thing. It's mytaxreductionblueprint.com.
Okay.
No obligation. You guys, you're welcome to go to the website, read up, schedule an appointment. You jump on a screen share session. We don't see your tax return. We go through our estimator tool, ask you a couple of questions. You tell us what's on line 47, and we tell you how much taxes you're missing.
Wow.
That's it, man. We can design a plan for you at that point if you would like. So, for example, if we saved you $20,000 in taxes, well, if we charged you $10,000 for the first year, I don't think you'd be angry with us, right?
No.
No, because you'd still make 10, and then next year you'd keep all 20, and the next year you'd keep all 20.
Right. Wow.
So on average, we typically save business owners about 20% in taxes. The other very valuable thing that comes with that is, audit risk. Depending on how you file your taxes, whether it's an S corp or LLC or C corp, those come with different audit risks that the IRS like to check on people for. And I know that's a big concern for business owners because they're busy running their business.
Sure.
So that would be another. And the last one is Business Cape, which is all focused on business owners and reducing taxes. Or not taxes, I apologize, reducing expenses. So if anybody ever wants more education, those are 3 sites, and we're currently putting up a lot of videos and education so people can get their education how they want, when they want it.
You sound like you're a busy dude.
I am a busy dude, man. I live on a farm, though. I don't have the hustle and bustle.
Oh, yeah. See, so whenever you feel a little overwhelmed, you can just go out and hang out with the chickens.
That's it, man. The cows.
And the cows. Everything seems better in the world.
Absolutely.
It's hard to do. Hard to get back to nature when you live in Los Angeles.
I bet, man. I see the pictures of those traffic jams, and I decide I don't want to visit.
It's not all that bad. The weather's great.
Oh, the weather is beautiful.
All right, Travis, this has been a blast. I'm sorry about all the glitches. Nobody will know.
Nobody will know.
Nobody will know.
Thanks to technology.
Thanks to technology. All right, brother. You have a good one, and thanks for hanging out with me.
You too. Thanks, bud.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.